In this video, we're going to show some of the new things that are coming in Cortex 2.7. Some of them are also present in Cortex 2.6, but they're going to be a little bit more visible in Cortex 2.7, and it's paving the way for what we have planned for the next version, which is going to be Cortex 3.0. Before we talk about versions, let's talk about what Cortex is. Cortex is an archive platform for ITSM systems. We started with Cherwell, then we added support for ServiceNow and Ivanti Neurons. Now we're adding support for Jira Data Center, and we'll continue to add support for even more platforms. So in this video, let's take a look at some of the new things that are coming in Cortex 2.7 and what really turns it from an archive tool to an archive platform. This is our public demo. You can go to archive.demo.synapsesoftware.com. I'll leave a link down in the video description. When you schedule some time with us to see the platform and to dive deeper into some of the features that I'll very briefly gloss over in this video, this is the site that we go to because it shows us a demo version of our Cherwell support, our ServiceNow support, and our Neuron support. We're in the process of adding the Jira Data Center stuff to the demo site, but for right now we show those three environments. Cherwell has been in our demo system for a long time. Been able to search. So here I can search incidents for those having to do with printers, and I get a bunch back. And I can drill into one of those records, and in just a minute, it'll load here and show me the business object form. Here we go. And of course, this is using a demo database. It's a relatively recent demo database, so that's why it looks the way it does, because this is the way that Cherwell content looked in, I think this was 2023.1.3 when I stood up this database. Whatever database you're using, however that looks in Cherwell, that's how it's going to look when you use Cortex on your system. And that's been the goal from the very beginning. And as we've added support for other systems, we've tried to replicate that as much as possible in those new systems. Obviously, those systems do things a little bit differently than how Cherwell does things. So we've tried to take into account how those systems handled their look and feel and their configuration, and take that into account when showing the data. So for instance, if we go over to our ServiceNow data area, we go over to browse, we can see obviously different tables because ServiceNow has a different set of certainly out-of-the-box tables, but typically when people build out a ServiceNow system, they build it out differently than they would a Cherwell or Ivanti system. Another thing that's unique about ServiceNow when it comes to the archival use case is that typically companies don't archive the entire ServiceNow database. Right? ServiceNow is massive. It has a lot of different features, a lot of different modules. Even out of the box, there are hundreds, possibly even thousands of tables. Most organizations don't use anywhere near that many tables. So typically they just need to archive or export a subset of them. And our ServiceNow integration supports that. So if you only have, a subset of tables, in this case I have maybe a dozen tables that I've exported, that's all we're going to show. We're not going to go trying to look for all the other hundreds of tables that you didn't archive. And behind the scenes, in a deeper dive, we can talk about how you get that data and how we, with Cortex, make sure that all of the relevant data does get archived, so that, for instance, when you drill into incident, you actually see everything that you're supposed to see on list. ServiceNow calls them lists, whereas Cherwell called them grids. And similarly, the usernames show up as usernames and not as sysids. And if we drill into an incident, we actually see the form view that we're expecting to see, right? Obviously, the form up top, some of the other form sections below. This particular demo system doesn't have the information to be able to show the related items, related lists, so it doesn't show them, right? But if that configuration were present in the database, that would show up as well. We did that to kind of keep this demo database on the smaller side. Now, if we go into Ivanti Neurons, we can go to search. Let's just go to browse, right? So with Ivanti Neurons, we have kind of a similar style to how we built things out for Cherwell. So if you go to browse, you can see all of the business objects that are available to you. Actually, technically, this is, as the title says, this is workspaces. Ivanti organizes things a little bit differently than Cherwell did, but we can still do things like go into incident or knowledge. Let's start with incident. And here we can see a bunch of incidents. We can even search and filter. And if we drill into one of those incidents, we see a slightly different view, but this is what you would expect to see if you were looking at this incident in Ivanti. So you can see all of the data. If anything is driven by expression, it shows up that way as well. Different controls. Obviously, ShareWorld never had a progress bar control. As far as I know, ServiceNow doesn't either, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments. On Avanti, they have a progress bar. We're showing the progress bar with all the relevant information, all of the tabs, all of the different... The form shows up the way it's supposed to, including the tabs, including all the different parts of the form and relationships and so on and so forth. I mentioned that we don't have Jira Data Center in this demo system. We will eventually, and then you'll be able to do the same thing with Jira. Obviously, Jira organizes things yet another way. We don't have tables, we have projects, and basically everything in Jira is an issue. So we have projects and we have issue types. And to a certain extent, we're still trying to figure out exactly the right way to display that information. But one way or another, you will always be able to get to all of the issues in your Jira system and be able to drill into them. See all the same things that you would expect to see from all of these other systems. Attachments, related items, linked items, comments, the history, all of that stuff. One thing that I kind of mentioned at the beginning and really kind of glossed over was we have multiple systems in one Cortex system, right? One Cortex system connected to multiple different databases. And that represents a pretty monumental shift in how we think about Cortex as a platform. It used to be that Cortex was this application that sits on top of another database. To a certain extent, that is still true, but we're starting to think about Cortex as its own application with its own lifecycle, its own story. When you retire an existing system, you connect Cortex to that database, or maybe it's a backup of the database, download of the database. And with each system, that side of the story might be a little bit unique depending on the system, and how they do things. But you connect Cortex to the database, and now Cortex is your archive platform. It is your source of truth for all of the archival data. And it's no longer a question of what am I going to do with this data when I move from system A to system B. The answer is you put it in Cortex. You connect Cortex to the database, and Cortex is where you go to see all of the historical data from any system you've ever left at any point in the past. And we'll have more videos talking about exactly what that means and what doors and opportunities that opens up. We're really excited about that. You can come find us, obviously, online on our website. There's links down in the video description to schedule time with me, see more information on our website, to join our various communities. We have a Discord server. We also have a weekly users group meeting where you can come and learn even more about Cortex. We can dive deeper into some of the things that I showed here. And you'll also be able to find us at some events that we're going to this year. In May, we'll be at Service and Support World in Las Vegas. We'll have a booth there on the trade show floor. Come visit us, come ask us questions, and come see the exciting things that we've got planned for Cortex. Thanks for watching, and I will see you very, very soon.